Hello, this is Catherine, and this is my venting video revisited on the topic of social media watering down and romanticizing political movements such as Black Lives Matter, Me Too, and all of the above. And when it comes to attaching this idea to an ideology, I struggled for a moment because I initially didn't think of it in a political sense. I came into this class having little to no knowledge of political science beforehand, and so I wanted to find a topic that I was not only confident in, but I felt knowledgeable speaking about. So I kind of struggled with looking for an ideology that would fit this. However, after looking at different variations and different types of variants within certain ideologies, I realized that third wave feminism seemed to be a pretty good fit for this because of its focus less on simply protesting rights and more of a focus on identity and difference and an integrative approach, basically meaning that everyone, black, white, sexuality-wise, it focuses on all of it. It's not just a one-size-fits-all feminism. And this kind of also associates with it, but third wave seems to be more in agreement with the idea that, quote, popular culture and the mass media in general can be a fertile ground for activism and political messaging, end quote, Nicolescu and Millard 14.2.3. But it almost seems like an outdated concept in the year 2025 and post-COVID, after social media has been warped so much, and is something that has warped us in a way, in our way of thinking about society and ourselves. And so I think it's worth mentioning that, with this whole idea of a single story and having a standpoint, and realizing that just because you know someone's identity, you know someone's race, you know someone's sexuality, doesn't mean you know their story. Or just because you know Black people doesn't mean you understand all of them, or racism in general. And that even without intersectionality, every single person has a different lived experience. And so when it comes to social media, and that is what you see is what you get type of thing, I think it kind of pushes back against the anti-universalism idea, because it really is one size fits all, and you see what you see, and there's no skepticism involved. And especially when it's accompanied by the fear of seeming like the oppressor, you just want to, it's just a lot of information being shared. And after a certain point, society starts to get frustrated with it, and situations like Black Lives Matter, well, then people start saying, oh, well, all lives matter, or feminists are seen as loud and annoying, or looking for attention. And it kind of adds into stereotypes, and even though that was already a thing, social media really does amp it up, because the whole idea with social media is if it bleeds, it leads. So the most important stuff, or the most extreme stuff, I'm sorry, not important, is the stuff that's going to be getting the most media attention, and the stuff that's going to be on everybody's radar. And this is not only causes a rift between society, but it causes a rift between people within their own marginalized communities, because everybody is fighting to be heard. And if every story is the same, then what is the point of telling yours? And so you're either silenced, or you're fighting to silence others to be heard. And I think a good example of this is Myra Donegan's critique of the Me Too movement, and basically people not being valid for their experience because it was so widespread. And finally, I just want to say, in terms of if I still agree with the topic in the first video I do. I 100% still agree with it. And now with a wider view of the topic, I may agree with it more, because it gives me a wider context and makes me realize that this is not just something that's happening with race and mental illness, but it's a feminist problem too. It affects all marginalized groups, and it affects all of society. Thank you.